Alabama beats Georgia.
Wow.
Saban Atlanta. Back and forth game. It seemed like every time, and this is the mark of a mature team. This is a mark of a well-coached team, which with Nick Saban, it's no shock there. Every time Georgia would do something, Alabama would answer, including that final drive. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. There's a lot to dissect from this game. Carson Beck was decently efficient. I mean, he's 21 to 29 for 243 yards. But the two things I saw earlier this week, we let off the show. One of the monologues was, if Alabama's offense and Georgia's offense were actors, who would they be, or what style would they be? Alabama's offense would be improvisational, right? Ryan Stiles from Whose Line Is It Anyway? Georgia would be Daniel Day-Lewis, a method actor. They're always themselves, and when they get outside of themselves and try and improvise, that's not when they're at their best. We saw a little bit of that last night. The improv group beat the method actors for most of that game, including the shovel pass by Jalen Milroe to extend the play, him working outside of the pocket, being able to find guys, including one on the touchdown. The Carson Beck, the few times he was outside the pocket, I thought he made a couple really good decisions scrambling up through the pocket. But when he was out there trying to create, he almost turned it over twice. That isn't who they were. But I think that the main takeaway I had is that after that first drive, and it was weird because typically Georgia doesn't play well early and then just absolutely dominates. It was kind of flipped last night. It was like Alabama was a little bit of Georgia. But when Alabama decided they wanted to line up and go man on man against Georgia and just find out who is better, more times than not, Alabama pushed Georgia around. And Georgia could not two-gap Alabama. They could not take their defensive lineman and just hold two guys or hold one guy and eat two gaps with a defensive lineman. So I thought Alabama was the tougher team last night, and that was one of the reasons they won the game.
Blaine, what'd you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, where are these games won and lost? Always, no matter if it's the SEC championship or week 3, you win these games up front, right? And we saw Georgia on the defensive line somewhat get pushed around this year, all right? And there's one strong suit for this Alabama team is both of their guards are phenomenal, all right? Extremely good. And you saw that in this game. It doesn't matter who was playing running back in this game. Trust me, Alabama, if they're deep as anywhere, they're deep at running back. Alabama won this game between the tackles. And why do you think they did? One, Jake was right. You can't two-gap them. But the Georgia defense always had to worry about what? All right. They had to worry about Milroe's legs. Mm-hmm. You do. And that takes a guy out of getting to the running back. And that's what you saw. I thought Carson Beck played okay. I think Carson Beck left a lot out there. He could have took a lot of checkdowns in his
turnover, killed him.
Just give him what the defense is giving him and taking it, but he didn't. And realistically, Alabama dropped 4 or 5 picks in this game that should have happened. Yeah. This game should have even been further away than what it was. But good for Alabama. I laugh at Paul Feinbaum because apparently Nick Saban's dynasty is dead as he wins the SEC championship. Is anybody surprised by this? No. But right now, Bama looks like one of the hottest teams and best teams in the country.
It was really cool to see a game where all 6 units are elite. The offense, defense, and special teams for both teams. And not only that, but when you talk about these two coaches, I loved your tweet yesterday, Jake, when you said the halftime adjustments from Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, how they're going to scheme against each other in the second half is going to be elite. It's just, it's must watch if you're want to get into the coaching industry or anything like that. I wasn't surprised by a lot of the way the game went, even though Georgia made it look so easy early. I thought we would see a little bit more of that because that's what they've been doing against every team. And Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey seemed to be healthy on those first drives. And then throughout the game, it was like, well, are they healthy or is Alabama just doing a great job of covering these guys? Alabama's offensive line, I think we talked about in preseason as being one of the biggest offensive lines in football, not just college, but in the NFL too. In those first couple of weeks, it was like, man, something's not working here. That unit has been so improved, and you saw them be able to have success, especially on the right side of that offensive line as the game went on, and that got the run game going, which opened up the pass game. And then Jalen Milroe just not making mistakes down the stretch. He made enough plays, and if you're Alabama right now and you just beat the number 1 team in the SEC championship game, and Jalen Milroe didn't even play his best game, that's the scariest part to me.
No, I agree. And look, talk about diversifying your portfolio last night. I'm sitting here looking at these receiving numbers. Isaiah Bond, once again, who I think is Alabama's best receiver, led him in targets and receptions. He had 5 for 79 yards. But you had Jam Miller have a catch for 28 yards. You had Jermaine and a touchdown. Jermaine Burton, 2 catches, 28 yards and a touchdown. Prentice, Nyblack, Dupree, Roydale Williams at running back, Kendrick Law. These guys all had catches. I thought Jalen did a good job of mixing up and not just focusing in on one guy. But it did seem, when everything else was even, when it came down to it, on those plays after the first couple drives, when one team had to have it outside of the fourth down that Georgia was able to convert for a touchdown, Alabama won those plays. We always talk about those handful of plays, especially in the fourth quarter. I mean, guys, Georgia outscored Alabama 14-7 in the fourth quarter, but it felt like Alabama had the ball for most of that fourth quarter because they were able to bleed out that last second drive. So to me, these were two teams that obviously have a ton of NFL talent. Identity-wise, they may be different schematically in some ways, but we know the blueprint is the same. That's why I always find this game so interesting. It's kind of like an unstoppable object meets an immovable force, and Alabama was able to hang on. But that turnover deep in their own territory on that little end around off the run fake, that cost them. That cost Georgia. And in this game, it's very small. It's very, very intricate, small plays that have big results. So, look, we ended up getting a great game.